Welcome back to New Rockstars. I'm Jessica Clemons, and this is a breakdown for Wes Ball's Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, the fourth installment in a very popular Planet of the Apes franchise, following 2017's War for the Planet of the Apes. So it's been 7 years since we've got a movie in the ape-verse. So let's break it down scene by scene for everything you might have missed and the little callbacks to the other great ape movies. But first, you can support New Rockstars by checking out some of the awesome merch available right now over at nerdriot.shop. There's new merch added all the time. Right now, I'm wearing the Gambit one. I actually really like this Gambit one. I like a lot of our merch, but I like this one the most. This one's really cute. Look at him. Sexy man. Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, directed by Wes Ball of the Maze Runner trilogy, written by Josh Friedman from War of the Worlds, Rick Jaffa and Amanda Silver of Avatar: The Way of Water, and Patrick Asen of Prey. And if you've seen those movies, this movie feels a lot like that movie, so it makes sense to have those writers on this movie. Like I mentioned before, is a sequel to the 2017's War for the Planet of the Apes. War for the Planet of the Apes ended with Caesar and the colony escaping the facility and an avalanche. Then they journey with their little human Nova to the Oasis, where Caesar reveals his fatal wound to Maurice and peacefully dies, knowing the apes are safe in their new home. This movie picks up at his funeral, where his fellow apes lay flowers on his body before commencing a funeral pyre. It's bittersweet to watch their leader leave this world, but Caesar was given a very warrior-like hero send-off. All the apes raise their hands to the skies, forming into fists that link at the knuckles, representing their common phrase, "Apes together strong." On the stone in the back, you can see what will later become a religious symbol for Caesar. It's of Caesar's window from the first movie, and I've always believed it was a symbol of freedom, as it's what separated him from the outside world. The funeral scene begins to end, however, we zoom in on the baby Cornelius, Caesar's son, looking at his father, then fade to black with light flickering the title for Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. We get the title card from many generations later, and we know this movie now takes place 300 years after Caesar dies, which I'll be referring to as AC from now on, AC standing for After Caesar. This acts as a new chapter to the franchise rather than the fourth part of Caesar's trilogy. The timeline goes as follows. Starting with Rise of the Planet of the Apes, which takes place between 2008 and 2016, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, which takes place in 2026, War of the Planet of the Apes, which is in 2028. This ends Caesar's trilogy, he dies at the end. Then 2024's Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, which takes place 300 years after the last movie, so this is like 23-28. This should eventually lead us to an almost 2,000-year jump to 1968's Planet of the Apes, taking place mainly in 3978. It's not a prequel, but we're building a world that would probably lead to the 68 movie. After 300 years, nature has fully been restored in California. Vegetation has grown well over the streets and buildings. The movie is shot entirely on location in Australia, combined with motion capture technology, which is insane to me. The skies are filled with eagles and untouched beautiful wildlife. I'm fairly certain we're in Los Angeles because we get a glimpse of a lot of LA County landmarks later in the movie. This also tells you how much better the world is with most of us dead and gone. Caesar led his people to the Oasis, which was a fictional place, and though to me it looked like Washington, it was probably more the Nevada and Arizona area, so we're continuing a very West Coast storyline for our new protagonist, a young chimpanzee named Noah, played by Owen Teague from You Hurt My Feelings. A lot of folks assumed Noah would be Caesar's offspring, Cornelius, but instead Wes decided to focus on a different point of view for this movie, so it felt like it was something new. Someone else can just focus on a Cornelius story down the line. Noah is a character we haven't seen yet and doesn't know Caesar or what he's done for all the apes. The Hollywood Reporter mentioned this last year in regards to the movie, that many ape societies have grown from when the Moses-like Caesar brought his people to an oasis. While humans have been reduced to a pharaoh-like existence, some ape groups have never heard of Caesar, while others have contorted his teachings to build burgeoning empires. That's the entire focus of this movie, and it's just shaped by Noah and his clan. He's a member of the Eagle Clan, a tribe of chimpanzees that focus on falconry, which is insanely cool that over 300 years, apes have learned to evolve beyond hunting and foraging using livestock to revolutionize their society. We're watching them actively move through the Stone Age into the Bronze Age. What's interesting is that the Eagle Clan is a tribe of chimpanzees and not a mix of different apes. In War for the Planet of the Apes, Caesar's colony consisted of different apes, like Luca was a gorilla, Winter was an albino gorilla, and Maurice was an orangutan. Though the majority were chimpanzees, they still allowed other types. Now, in the future, based on the Eagle Clan, the species have begun separating. This could be because of mating or the population of different apes in this area, since most came from zoos. They probably thought it best to segregate. I don't like using that word. Racist chimpanzees seem like a bad idea for a next movie. Three apes are climbing a rusty moss building using what's left of our world like a jungle gym. This is Noah and his two close friends, Suna, voiced by Lydia Peckham, and Anaya, voiced by Travis Jeffrey. And Suna looks a lot like Lake from War for the Planet of the Apes. Maybe just a coincidence, but I could not stop thinking about it. They still use sign language, but all the apes can also speak English. As a reminder, they spoke in War for the Planet of the Apes too, but it's much more clearer now, more fluent, definitely surpassed the feral humans they despise. We learn one of the Eagle clan traditions and the rite of passage for the younger members is a thing called bonding, where they must take an eagle egg and raise it themselves, therefore establishing a bond with their eagle. These eagles that they raise, I believe, are the golden eagles, which are found usually along the west coast of the United States. Once they reach the nest, there are only 3 eggs, but they must leave one, as that is law. We understand that if they always took all the eggs, there would be no wild eagles. No more eagles means no more Eagle clan. And wildlife conservation begins with a healthy ecosystem. They don't want to become the next generation of humans who will just eat and destroy and greed, let us kill everything. Noah offers 2 of the eggs to his friends and discovers a nest much higher, referred to as top nest. He strategically reaches the nest and grabs an egg, though the mother eagle returns, swiping immediately at Noah, who almost falls to his death but survives with the egg safe in tow. You get it? Because he has a monkey foot and he grabs it? On their way back to their horses, they cross paths with an echo, also known as a human. They never explain why they call them echoes, but I assume, like an echo, there's something that was once there, that still continues but has disappeared, meaning they have left an imprint on this earth but have left the world. They find the stolen blanket with human blood right outside a tunnel. This tunnel separates the Eagle clan from the valley beyond. There's always a forbidden area in these movies, but it does remind me of the Forbidden Zone from the 68 and 70 films. In the original Planet of the Apes, the Forbidden Zone was where Cornelius discovered traces and artifacts that once belonged to man. Just like in this movie, they'll find a world shared with echoes beyond their forbidden valley. Noah, Anaya, and Suna return to their village, which is truly thriving. There are little baby chimps with the sweetest little voices, and we see all the crazy infrastructure and the crops they're growing. The production design here is pretty remarkable, seeing as every portion tells its own story and shows how far they've come. We're introduced to Noah's mother, Luna. She's an elder of the Eagle clan and well respected. Then we meet his father, Master of Birds Koro, played by Neil Sandilands. Inside, this is what's referred to as the Eagle Nest. I like that their colors feature a lot of blue, like it represents the sky and water, as they breed and care for eagles who fish and fly. They're also little birds shaped like conchu heads and dyed blue feathers around their necklaces. I just like the costume design here, it's really great. How Noah's mother approaches him and vice versa without fear, you can tell he's closer to his mother than his father. Owen Teague mentioned in an interview how Noah, maybe as a kid, bonded with his mom, helping her design those racks for drying fish and helping her build those. So they had a better connection where she understood him in a way that his dad didn't. And through that, he became better as an engineer than bonding with the eagles. The eagles don't really like Noah, more so they just don't respect him, and it's probably the funniest bit in this movie. Regardless, Noah's father sends one of the apes out into the forest to scare the echo away. Unfortunately, the echo returned to steal a fish, and in their escape broke Noah's egg. Upset, he heads into the forest to retrieve another egg. That's when he runs into the bad guys. They're led by Silva, portrayed by Eka Darville. These hostile apes ride on horses as well, covered in different metal armor and wearing masks made of what looks like bark, but at one point the impact sounds like rusted metal, like their live-in ship back home. They also wield cattle prods. In the past movies, we didn't see apes use electricity, but it seems 300 years into the future, some factions of apes have rediscovered it. Later we learn it was William H. Macy's character Trevathan who would make it for them. They find Noah's lone horse, which leads them back to the Eagle clan. They set the village ablaze, looking for the human and causing destruction in their path. And they actually did set these huts on fire for this scene. Who would have thought? Why would you do that? These were beautiful huts. Then Silva exclaims, "For Caesar!" leading us, the audience, to believe he's doing this in the name of our Caesar, which he technically is, but through a more tyrannical leader named Proximus Caesar, who we'll get into shortly. The mean ape kills Noah's father, but before doing so, he sort of makes him watch before cutting him from a dangling wire to a hardened death below. This feels not only like the scene from The Lion King, but in Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, how Koba shot Caesar. There's just something here with staring them in the eyes when you kill them that feels even more disrespectful, but common amongst these villainous apes. The following morning, Noah comes to. His village is burnt to the ground and his father's hawk perched next to his lifeless body. Noah buries him under rocks and promises to find the Eagle clan and bring them back home. Though the story isn't about Caesar, Noah feels like a very teenage Caesar. He's quick to action and blinded with compassion and honesty. Noah then takes the broken cattle prod and begins his journey tracking them down through the tunnel to the Forbidden Valley, followed by his father's eagle like Zazu in The Lion King. On his journey, we see more of LA, and I think this is just a freeway off-ramp. He passes what I believe is Dodger Stadium, then lands in a trap hole meeting Raka, an orangutan voiced by Peter Macon. Apes exposed to ALZ-112 and ALZ-113 have green eyes, except blue eyes with, blue eyes for God knows what reason. Raka is an evolved orangutan, though his eyes are brown, and later we see Proximus's outer iris is also dark like regular apes. I suspect this is due to the ape's exposure, how they acquired the infection, and how the virus has been diluted over years of reproduction. Raka is easily my favorite character. The acting this man does as an ape is superb. They actually went to ape school for 6 weeks with their movement coach, who talked them through movement work and vocal work, and it just really shows here. During the actor's time in the ape camp, he mentioned in an interview there were no other orangutans, so he had to hang out by himself, but it helped him realize how slow and naturally solitary they all are. And that's really sweet to me because the orangutans are always by themselves in this movie. It's also interesting to acknowledge that Maurice, after spending so much time with the other chimpanzees, began walking like one. Rocka, who hasn't been around a lot of chimpanzees, is physically more aligned with the orangutan's movements. It's hard to not physically compare these two when they're only one per movie. Rocka's partner was killed by the hostile apes and his body is lit on a funeral pyre just like Caesar's was. Just like Maurice, Rocka is wise, smart. Maurice also held a lot of teachings and had interest in books. They both follow the word of Caesar, calling this group the Order of Caesar, and it's not surprising that the legends and tales of Caesar have made their way to Rocka and Proximus. It's just questionable though how the Eagle clan doesn't know who he is. The only argument to be made is if they were released from a zoo and set up a village away from any Caesar knower, but that seems too far-fetched. And I think at some point there was someone that decided to just stop sharing the word of Caesar and basically pulled an M. Night Shyamalan's The Village. He even wears Caesar's window symbol around his neck. He teaches Noah quickly that symbols have meaning, referring to literature, and how Caesar led with compassion, strength, and decency. Rocka mentions how humans were important to Caesar and by proxy they were important to me. Oh, I just think that's so cute. As we know, Caesar was raised by humans in the first movie, found respect for them in the second movie, and by the third he became very close with Nova. Noah doesn't know Caesar, he only knows the name from the hostile apes that yelled it before burning down his village. So this is where we start getting into Caesar as a religious figure and how differently his values and beliefs can be interpreted in the future. For instance, Caesar always said apes together strong. Proximus took that physically and literally, enslaving a bunch of apes to do physical labor. By this time, for those who know of Caesar, he's a religious figure kinda. He's freed his kind, created laws, and led them to an oasis. He was a key player in Planet of the Apes and believed in the welfare of all apes, especially his own. Worshipping your ancestors and believing their existence can carry on influencing the living isn't unusual. So he's gone from like a well-respected leader to a deity in like 300 years. Rocka will always say stronger together, unlike Caesar's apes together strong, because he believes in a world where apes and humans can work together and coexist. Later, Noah will start saying together stronger when referring to his own clan, so the words have already taken a new meaning and interpretation. Rocka guides Noah through his underground home, which actually leads him through an airport. He says this was a refugee for humans where they taught and fed, and I believe this is LAX, so we're getting closer to the coastline. Later that evening, by the campfire, we're officially introduced to Freya Allen and her character Nova. Rocka throws an apple to her. Rocka names her Nova and says, "We named them all Nova during Caesar's time." This comes from the little girl Nova, named after the car ornament that she played with in War for the Planet of the Apes. The original Nova name came from the 1968 Planet of the Apes, the name Taylor gave Linda Harrison's character. Nova also isn't older than 300 years, so she was born into a planet now ruled by apes, which makes her a little more hostile to the apes and skeptical, though she's always alert and knows how to survive. Nova, we learn later, is pretending to be feral. In the last movie, the simian flu had evolved, and instead of killing humans, the neurodegenerative strain targeted their ability to speak. As they progressed, they'd lose their intelligence, thus devolving into primitive beings. This was also very contagious, as we saw Woody Harrelson's character in the last movie become infected instantly by a doll. Rocka also refers to them as a herd, and he thought they were all dead, so a lot of them have either been hunted or just murdered over time. We also learned she was traveling with a pack of humans that Proximus Caesar's clan killed immediately, though they saw Nova escape. On one of their bodies, they found a map to this vault on this island, so Proximus knows something of importance is in there and he wants in. Late into the night, Noah finds a telescope in this building that I believe is the Griffith Observatory. This may be the Zeiss telescope. Upon entry, he passes a small mural of an astronaut. Whether this is a call out to the astronaut from the original movie or this is just guiding us into a fifth movie where the apes launch into space is beyond me. I don't know if they're gonna go to space in the fifth movie, but God, I hope they do. Challenger explosion. But just by looking through it, he and Nova share a really special moment, and I believe in recognizing just how big the world is, a world that they can possibly coexist as human and apes. Maybe, hopefully. The next morning they pick up their journey, now traveling with Nova. Certainly reminds us how Caesar, Maurice, and Nova were traveling together in the last movie. Maurice is kind of like Rocka, two orangutans with a shared thirst for knowledge and preservation. We have our voiceless Novas, assisted and loved by the orangutan, and Noah as Caesar, both optimistic about a livable future and guides his fellow apes to a new home. They run into zebras. Now, the Griffith Observatory isn't far from the LA Zoo, so I believe these zebras are just free-range LA Zoo zebras that have stayed and reproduced for over 300 years. What's more interesting here is that they learned to adapt to a new area and just thrived. Look at this. Kind of an invasive species, but invasive to who now? This all begs the question, where did the chimps go from the LA Zoo? Are they now the Eagle clan? Bad Ape from War for the Planet of the Apes came from Nevada's Sierra Safari Zoo, and over time, he and the rest of the apes at the zoo became infected and evolved while the humans got sicker. He learned speech from watching the humans and just stayed there existing. The same can be said for the chimps at the LA Zoo who left and maybe made home not far away from their original home. This is all just worth pondering. Thank you to BetterHelp for sponsoring this video. It's spring, and while for a lot of us that means doing a deep clean of our apartment, there's no reason you can't do the same thing with your brain. Whether you're looking to begin or continue your journey with mental health, BetterHelp can help connect you to a therapist who's right for you. BetterHelp makes starting therapy easier and less intimidating for a lot of people. First, use our link to go to their website, betterhelp.com/newrockstars. The site will ask you to answer a few questions, so BetterHelp can match you up with one of their over 30,000 therapists who they think can help you out with the most. The therapist they pick for you will have tons of experience dealing with whatever you're going through. Every single one of their therapists is licensed and has a master or doctorate degree and has spent over 3 years and 1,000 hours working with people just like you. You'll be matched to a therapist usually within 48 hours so you can get started fast. We've been promoting BetterHelp for a while and heard some amazing feedback from you guys. We got permission to share this review from one of our viewers who said, "I used to be against the idea of therapy and didn't need it. After one session with my therapist, I completely pivoted and realized how beneficial therapy truly is." Let BetterHelp connect you to a therapist who can support you all from the comfort of your own home. Visit betterhelp.com/newrockstars or choose New Rockstars during sign up and enjoy a special discount on your first month. Along with the zebras, they see a herd of humans, and this scene is straight pulled from the original '68 film. Not only are the feral humans dressed the same, but they're just as primitive. They're incapable of speech as well. There are many similarities between this movie and the original Planet of the Apes. One major similarity is that Nova and Astronaut Taylor couldn't speak for half of the movie. Astronaut Taylor was shot in the neck, but Nova decided just not to talk out of fear. Rocka and Noah speak and agree to leave Nova with her kind. Before leaving, Rocka gives Noah his necklace, the symbol of Caesar, and says it's important. He takes it and leaves, leaving Nova sad and confused. I also like and hate how Nova and Noah are one letter off. It's just so jarring. I don't know why they did this. All is fine until the hostile apes arrive and hunt down these humans, and just like the original movies, the apes hunt through the tall grass, cutting the leaves with sticks. They even use nets, and goddamn, they love using the nets in both movies. The music even matches the same urgency and horror film theme as the original movies did. Other than cattle prods and nets, both factions of apes have been using bolas. These are very early primitive creations used for hunting or combat. There's even a very identical shot of the apes chasing Nova overhead in the grass, which is mirrored in the original movie. The music matches the original movie's urgency and horror film theme. Wes Ball actually talked to the composer and told him how he had to be a little Jerry Goldsmith who composed the original Planet of the Apes. Jerry Goldsmith scored 5 movies in the Star Trek franchise, 3 in Rambo, Logan's Run, Chinatown, and The Omen. This man can render any choreographed fight or emotion into music. He's using old tools and items from like silly old Disney cartoons and bamboo clacking. During this scene, you can hear the big band-like tuba scratching, and it's fantastic. After Nova disappears into the tall grass or corn, she spots Noah and rises from the brush to scream his name, catching his and the hostile ape's attention. We get this little standoff of Noah on his horse and Silva stabs their cattle prod into the ground. Apes always have their different intimidation display, but I love the idea that he's basically saying, "I don't even need this stick, I'll kick your ass." We saw this scene in the trailer, but Nova sprints to Noah, leaping off a log into Noah's arms. In the original movie, Taylor runs past the log and the net gets stuck, ripping the apes off their horses. Once they knock down Silva, Rocka comes to knock another ape off their horse. Normally, ape not kill ape, but even Rocka mentioned Caesar will forgive him for that. This was one of Caesar's more important rules. This is when Nova speaks and scares the hell out of Rocka. He literally is in shock and dropping his bag on the ground. She tells him that she knows where they're taking their clan, and she sorta lies and tells them she's going to a human settlement. She technically is going to a human settlement, it's just not the one that they're expecting. When asked why she's been lying the whole time, she argues that being silent kept her alive. Later that night, Noah fixes his broken cattle prod he's been carrying around, and there's a little fear in May's eyes, but the fear comes from anticipation. She's watching apes progress and humans are still stagnant in their disease that's been wiping them out. Again, May was born into the Planet of the Apes, so watching your enemy evolve isn't the goal. They reach the bridge on the edge of the beach. These are scarecrows along the shoreline. These were also featured in the '68 film. They were made from the skin of apes, but in this movie, it looks like it's made from the clothes of the feral humans. Also, in the '68 film, they called them scarecrows. That's their words, not mine. I believe that in that movie, they were also made to draw the border between their land and the Forbidden Zone. This could be the border once you enter Proxima Caesar's kingdom. The apes ambush them on the bridge with the smaller apes scaling the bridge below. This reminds me of when Koba snuck up on the military men in Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. Nova falls into the stormy waters, throwing an ape downstream, and Rocka immediately runs to assist her, and in doing so, Noah is taken down. Rocka pushes May to the bridge and holds on by nothing but a measly piece of rope. When Silva makes it to the bridge, we get this deja vu moment of Noah witnessing his dad dying again. Noah looks at Rocka, who's holding on for dear life, when Silva leans down to cut his rope. Before cutting the rope though, Rocka tells Noah stronger together, then floats downstream with the rocky current, presumably dead. Now captive as prisoners, the apes lead May and Noah across the ocean coastline. This scene imitates the one from the original movie where Charlton Heston's character is riding horseback on the beach right before seeing the Statue of Liberty. We see the decayed ships. Later we get a better view of the vault. The writing I believe says Coronado Bay Complex B, which I couldn't find, but I believe this is supposed to be a Navy military base. The ship that homes Proxima Caesar is a naval ship, corroded, rusted, and rotting from the inside out. All the debris left behind in the ocean are also other decaying battleships. The landscapes really are huge in this movie, and I love the perspective of our world untouched. It's just become a jungle, and how how different areas are used, and some parts are like here as new homes. Once inside, it's a zoo of animals. I'm sorry for being offensive, but it is. It feels like the moment Caesar was taken to that ape shelter in the first movie, the confusion and fear both apes share now. It's just a moment of clarity knowing, 1, are there other apes? And 2, what's this chaos? And also 3, what's that smell? I bet it smells horrible in there. Noah and May are then separated, and Noah is led outside where we get a clear view of the prison camp. Apes are forced into labor building together just like they were in the last movie, and they're setting up explosives at the vault door and repairing the bridge that acts as a dam not letting water in. On the bright side, Noah meets Suna and the remaining members of his clan, his mother and Anaya. May is led upstairs where we officially meet Trevathan, played by William H. Macy, a man who was trying to leave for the coastline and shattered his ankles but was found by Proximus Caesar. And I assume this military base was a point of destination for those fleeing the flu, but some didn't make it. It's very Fallout-y. He now reads them books on Rome and the Roman Empire, which, yeah, of course he does. He's learning to evolve through the Roman Empire, and that just sounds like a horrible idea, but yeah, his name's Proximus Caesar. What else are you gonna do? One of the books is Kurt Vonnegut's Welcome to the Monkey House, a book originally published in 1968, the same year as the original Planet of the Apes. Set in a not too distant dystopian future, Earth's population is just too vast, so to reduce the population, the world government requires all civilians to take daily doses of a drug that's basically birth control. Kinda like how we wiped out the human race in the movie. It feels like a loose connection. I don't really like the connection. Trevathan acts as entertainment in hopes of not being killed. He's completely submitted to the apes now ruling the world, and instead of fighting it, he's decided to make the best of it, something I'd also do because I'm a coward. Proximus Caesar reveals himself to a loud, cheerful congregation. This is also where we get a clear shot of Caesar's symbol on the wall behind them. The term Proximus is an old Latin word meaning next, so he sees himself as the next Caesar. Latin was prominently used along with Greek during the Roman Empire, and since Trevathan has been reading him Roman history books, that's where he learned it. He's played by Kevin Durand from Abigail, and I love this man so much. He plays Proximus so well, and it's just so fun for him. You can see him just having a ball. Proximus is also an evolved bonobo ape. He's the villain solely because he captures apes from neighboring tribes and forces them to live in his kingdom as slaves. Otherwise, his motives for wanting a world that doesn't force apes back into cages is kind of understandable. And do you know who else was an evil bonobo that also despised humans? Koba. Looky there. They're always gonna be evil, I guess. Though it should be noted that Kevin Durand mentioned in an interview he's the only bonobo so far in this movie. When asked how Proximus came into power, Proximus Caesar's actor Kevin Durand said he imagined him as a young bonobo. He had all these grand ideas that none of the other bonobos really understood. It kind of took him to a point where he really started thinking deeply about the future of apedom and eventually evolved into, if we lose power, we will probably end up living in cages again and our ancestors will live in those cages. When Proximus approaches the congregation, he walks past these female apes with red face paint across their eyes, jewelry hanging from their foreheads, and covered in a blue scarf or blanket, each bending their little hands as he walks by. In Rise of the Planet of the Apes, Caesar asks for permission, raising his palm up to Will before entering the woods. In Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, Koba raises his palm to Caesar and asks for forgiveness. As a tyrant leader, Proximus Caesar has claimed the idea of asking for permission or forgiveness, instead now making them rotate their palms downward in praise and submission. He respects and honors Caesar's legacy by weaponizing it, and the stark difference is just insane. Caesar also would never walk by those apes without talking to them or recognizing them first. This is completely not what Caesar stood for, but this is also how apes have interpreted his message over time. Proximus exclaims, "What a wonderful day!" He also has this weird assimilated call and response.
Say his words.
They even linked their fists like Caesar's colony did. Proximus Caesar then uses the apes in an attempt to open the vault, and when the government went down, this is where half of it went. Inside that vault is human weapons and a lot of knowledge. This eventually feels a lot like Fallout, how in this post-collapse society, there's a vault made for humans with little rooms and schools, but you know, everything sounds like Fallout to me nowadays. The attempt at opening the vault fails and ends with a lot of apes being injured, and to that Proximus says, maybe we'll be stronger tomorrow. After literally slaving away, the apes are given one apple and must bend their hand for a meal. That's when Noah is called to Proximus's room. Once they receive May and Trevathan, he also has a chair in Caesar's symbol. That's when Proximus discusses evolution with Noah and May. We get this perspective that humans could do so many things for such a long time, and how. He wants to learn how they evolved so quickly and how he can take it and enhance it for apedom. He shows off his kingdom and warns Noah that humans can never be trusted. This is when we find out that May has been lying this entire time and has come to take back what belongs to humans, just when Noah was starting to like her too. Noah now questioning his fate and the fate of his clan, he talks to his mother on the edge of the dam. His clan's eagles have followed him to Proximus Caesar, but as his mom says, Proximus has no need for eagles, so we're no longer eagle clan. Noah's mom was also very quick to give up. I get it, I'm a coward, but come on girl, get your eagles back. Noah finds deep down inside himself not to give up and save his clan, and at this point his father's eagle chooses to land and perch on his arm, symbolizing respect. He's like, hell yeah man, I'm in. Like that Rick and Morty meme. Noah chooses to speak with May, who tells him the truth in the history of humans and apes. How originally humans were superior until we created something that killed humans and made apes smarter. This is all shown in the first movie. They forge a plan to blow up the dam, allowing water to drown everything and anything inside that vault. Not before letting the Eagle clan escape, of course. And May knows how to get in so their plan can work, they just both need each other. When Noah grabs Anaya and Suna, Anaya confesses he's too scared, and it's heartbreaking because at the beginning they made fun of Anaya for being afraid of the blanket in the tunnel. He's just a little scary cat, but I get it. I wouldn't want to get cattle prodded either. Luckily, he joins not long after, saying hello Echo to May. Their plans are interrupted by Trevathan. May tries to get him to run away with her, but instead he turns his back on her again, ready to snitch on the whole plan. That's when May chokes him out, and this scene is really intense. The only sensation I felt watching this scene was witnessing a girl have to kill her own kind to survive. She probably learned this move to fight apes, not other humans. Wherever May came from, she's learned self-defense and explosives, and it makes sense that humans would pass that knowledge down to survive, but it's still important to note. Suna, Anaya, and Noah look in complete shock, and they toss the man's body into the ocean. Farewell. They just toss it over into the ocean. They're like, okay, bye. They climb to the backside of the vault, and this view is overtaken by the water, but the entire perimeter does resemble the Forbidden Zone area along with the beach from the '68 movie. It has like the same rocks and the same location look. They begin climbing the rock side, almost falling to their death, to which Noah says shit, a new curse word he learns from May, and monkey see, monkey do. That's offensive and I'm sorry. They climb into the vault from the top and it's pure darkness. They each light a torch and head into the abyss. Inside the vault, May turns on the generator. Noah, Anaya, and Suna make their way into a classroom where Noah gawks at the floating solar system diagram, and the space imagery in this film is pretty apparent. We have the telescope, the astronaut mural, and now this. The apes are going to space. I'm calling it now, or we are preparing to show someone crashing down soon. It's clear they're focusing on the future of the franchise and what could happen next. This is also where we get an Easter egg of the doll from the '68 movie that says mama. May has found herself a SATCOM key. SATCOM is short for satellite communications. It's revealed later that her human settlement is actually a base of very intelligent humans who needed this key to reboot an old satellite system to contact other humans. Back with Noah, Suna, and Anaya, they found a children's book that shows chimpanzees and other animals behind bars being gawked at in a zoo. As May is actively trying to reestablish human dominance in the world, these apes are learning not to trust humans. On their way out with May, they pass military tanks and weapons. May opens the vault and surprise, surprise, Proximus is there, waiting. He tells Noah his first mistake was trusting the human. In a scuffle, one of Proximus's goons takes Suna at knife point, and in retaliation and fear, May shoots the ape with a gun she was hiding. Instead of being angry, Proximus is happy and asks if there's more inside, which prompts May to run and ignite the dynamite, blowing up the dam, sending waves of water to crash in, about to drown a bunch of apes. Noah tells the Eagle clan to climb, as they're great climbers, having to bond with eagles and whatnot. Silva, the bad ape, sees Noah and immediately they start scuffling. Swinging through the pipes, avoiding the water, this big ape is busting through pipes to get to Noah. Luckily, Noah finds his escape between heavy pipes the ape can't fit through, and we watch Noah escape while the ape drowns in the foreground. I didn't like this scene. It was a little too intense. I did not need to see a gorilla drown in water. Once Noah reaches the top, Proximus Caesar is still alive and starts whooping that ass. Noah, with not much fight left in him, starts to sing his Eagle clan song after gazing at the eagles flying above them. He sings and the clan joins in. The eagles fly down and start pecking and slicing at Proximus, cutting him up until Noah's final eagle pushes him off the cliff edge, presumably falling to his death. I keep saying presumably through this because comics and Marvel have taught me no one ever dies. Noah completes his journey, bringing his clan back home, and we see them rebuilding what they lost, and in comes May. Good ol' almost killed all of us May. Noah now wears Caesar's symbol around his neck. They fight immediately because May, like most humans, are selfish, but she was born into this world oppressed by apes, hunted by apes. So the idea of a world where she can exist without fear like apes sounds pretty good. You can understand both of their sides, but Raka's ideal future of coexisting isn't so easy. However, there's an inkling of trust and friendship between these two brought upon them by Raka and Caesar's values, and I think that sentiment will never be lost. May leaves and we get contrasting scenes of her crossing an old plain in the valley on horseback. Noah returns to Suna and heads off with his father's eagle to show her the telescope. May approaches an old bunker. It looks like a building that's half underground. A woman in a hazmat suit steps out. This is Deacon Lockman, Miss Cassie, Cassie from Severance, who I expect to return in the next movie because she's not really a one-off actress. She comes out retrieving the SATCOM key from May, and May doesn't enter the building, and I assume it's out of fear that she may have contracted the simian flu or its evolved strain that takes away your ability to speak. Inside the building, in the back, they have a decontamination chamber for their hazmat suits. May stares up to the satellites pointing to the sky, and the humans pick up a signal from another human in Fort Wayne, Indiana. That's where astronaut Taylor's from in the original 68 movie. And that's just the end. That's the end of it. And I had a great time in Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. The pacing was like a little crazy for me, but overall, I can tell they're trying to build a future for the franchise while still preserving Caesar's legacy. At times, it felt like they were more focused on the franchise's future rather than answering questions for now, but it was still fun to watch them blow out this world and see how important Caesar is to all the apes. With humans able to speak via satellite, that means we can regroup again or strategize a better plan. Maybe the next step is leaving Earth and repopulating somewhere else. The Elon Musk ape can take us to Mars. Jokes aside, it does feel like space is the next frontier in this franchise. Let me know what you think it'll be in the next franchise or how you felt about Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. Follow me at Lulu_Clemons. Subscribe to all 3 channels of the new Rockstars network for more breakdowns and news coverage of everything you love. Thanks for watching. Bye.
Together strong.